The Texas sun was absolutely merciless that afternoon of July 18, 2003. The heat is so intense that the asphalt seems to melt. Inside a simple, single-story house, number 17201 Cedar Drive in Clear Lake City, a suburb of Houston, 4 young people are living out the last minutes of their lives without the slightest idea of what is about to happen. Tiffany Rowell, just turned 18, blonde, with long, straight hair, a smile that opened doors, the kind of girl everyone wanted to be around because she simply lit up any room just by walking in. Rachel Coloradus, also 18 years old, brunette, with bright brown eyes that always seemed to be laughing at a secret joke. The friend who never, ever, ever turned her face away from anyone, no matter who it was. Marcus Priscilla, 19 years old, Tiffany's boyfriend, the guy who sold a little bit of everything. Weed, pills, whatever he could find, to pay the bills and maintain the lifestyle they thought they deserved at 19, and Adalbert Sanchez, 21 years old, Marcus's cousin. I had just arrived from California looking for a fresh start. Far from the violence of the streets there, they're in the living room. Loud music plays from the speakers. Easy laughter. The sweet smell of weed hangs in the warm, still air. Glasses of soda on the table. The day seems perfect. No one hears the car stop outside. No one sees the 2 silhouettes getting out of the vehicle. One of them has been in that house hundreds and hundreds of times. You've slept on that couch. You've cried while hugging those 2 girls until you fell asleep. You've been treated like family, like a blood sister. Christine Marie Paulila, 17 years old. Beside her walks Christopher Lee Snyder, 21 years old. Eyes red from utter withdrawal. Hands trembling so much they can barely hold the 2 semi-automatic pistols hidden in the backs of his pants. The doorbell rings. Tiffany jumps up from the sofa laughing, runs to the door, and opens it with the widest, most genuine smile in the world. "Chris, girl, it's been so long. Come in, I've missed you so much." He hugs Christine as if not a single day had passed. Rachel shouts from inside the room, "Did you bring Chris? What a nice surprise. Come here, sit with me." Nobody notices that Christine doesn't return the smile. No one sees the look Snyder gives Marcus, a look that already bears death written in letters of blood, a look from which there is no turning back. They come in. They sit on the sofa. The conversation starts lightly, as it always has in the hundreds of times before. They talk about past parties, romances, weekend plans, who saw whom at the beach, but in less than 10 minutes, the air changes completely. It changes irreversibly. Snyder starts to get aggressive. He's sweating profusely. The veins in his neck are swollen like ropes. His voice trembles with anger, with longing, with despair. "I need the money. I need the scene now. Right now." Marcus slowly raises his hands, trying to calm down, trying to stay calm. "Calm down, man. I'll fix it now. Everything's under control. Relax." Snyder pulls the pistol from his waistband, his hand trembling. The first shot is so loud, so deafening, that it feels like the whole world is exploding inside that room. Tiffany is hit squarely in the chest. She staggers backward. She falls on her back, her eyes still wide open, unable to understand, unable to believe what is happening. Rachel lets out a scream that cuts to the soul of any human being who hears it, a scream that gets stuck in the throat. Marcus tries to run for the door. He takes 3 shots in quick succession in the back, falls face down on the floor, blood already forming a huge pool beneath him. Adalbert raises his hands, pleading in a broken voice, almost crying, "Please, please, I have nothing to do with this. I just arrived, I don't even know you." A gunshot to the head, absolute silence. Only the ringing in the ears. Rachel is alive, still alive, wounded, in the chest, in the leg, but alive. He begins to crawl slowly and painfully towards the landline phone that is on the small table next to the sofa. The blood leaves a thick, sticky red trail on the light-colored wooden floor. She reaches out her hand. Her fingers almost touch the device. Her fingers tremble. It is in that exact second, that eternal second, that Christine approaches her, slowly, no rush at all. The same Christine that Rachel taught how to apply black eyeliner for the first time. The same Christine that Rachel defended in the school hallway when they spat on her wig and called her a monster. The same Christine that Rachel hugged for hours when she cried because of the bullying. Christine stops beside her, looks down, raises the pistol by the butt, and brings it down with all her force, all her anger, all her coldness on Rachel's head. Once, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times. The sound is terrifying, horrible, unbelievable. bone breaking against cold metal. Rachel tries to whisper again, her voice already choked with blood. Why? Chris, why me? Why us? But the voice no longer comes out. Christine continues hitting until Rachel stops moving completely, until her best friend's face becomes unrecognizable. Until there's absolutely nothing left of the girl who saved her from the deepest hell of adolescence. More than 40 shots in total, 42 bullets. To be absolutely exact, the room looks like a slaughterhouse, walls splattered with blood, brains, bone fragments, soaked curtains, gold cartridges scattered everywhere like macabre confetti from a party no one will ever celebrate again. The smell of burnt gunpowder, warm blood, and death is so strong, so unbearable, that even Christopher Snyder, the man who started it all, seems nauseous, like he's going to vomit. Christine looks at the 4 bodies scattered around the room like broken dolls. She takes a deep breath. Calmly, she wipes the blood from her face with the back of her hand. And he says in the calmest, coldest, emptiest voice in the world, "Let's go. I have to be at Walgreens at 4. An hour after the massacre, Christine Marie Paulila is behind the makeup counter at the Walgreens store. Impeccable professional smile. "Would you like to take the lip gloss too, girl? It looks beautiful with that pink lipstick you chose." The customers smile back. Nobody suspects a thing. No one sees the dried blood beneath the perfectly painted fingernails. But to try to understand how it's possible to get to this point, we have to go back a long way, a very, very, very long time ago in Christine Paulila's life. Christine Marie Paulila was born on March 31st, 1986, in Long Island, New York. When he was just 2 years old, his father, Charles Paulila, was crushed to death on a construction scaffold. He fell from several stories. He died instantly, in front of his co-workers. The mother, Lori Paulila, completely broke down. She fell into a deep depression, started injecting heroin every day, and lost custody of her children. Christine and her older brother lived with their grandparents for years on end. And it was there, at the age of 6, that the second great hell of her life began. A alopecia areata total. First clumps of hair fell out, then her entire eyebrows, then all her eyelashes. By the age of 10, Christine was completely bald, a smooth, shiny eggshell. In primary school, they called her monster, alien, bald, cancerous, even though she didn't have cancer at all. They spat on the cheap wig her mother bought at the supermarket. They hid her thick glasses. They pushed her down the stairs. They circulated photographs of her crying. Christine learned to walk with her head down, to hide in the hallways, to eat alone in the corner of the cafeteria, to cry silently in the bathroom every single day of her childhood. She learned that the world was cruel, that people were cruel, and that no one would ever truly want her. In 2002, the mother, now more stable after several treatments, decided to start over from scratch in Texas. Clear Lake City, Nova Escola, Clear Lake High School. The first few days are the same old hell, multiplied 1,000-fold. Christine always sits alone, head down, horrible wig, thick glasses. Nobody talks to her. Until the day 2 popular girls saw her in the cafeteria, sitting alone with her untouched tray. Tiffany Rowell and Rachel Colarutis could have passed by. They could have ignored it completely. Instead, they sat down with her. They looked at her and said, "What an awful wig. It looks like something an old doll would wear. Let's go to the mall and buy a decent one right away." They took her to the hairdresser, to the mall, to the professional makeup salon. They taught her how to contour her eyes, how to use foundation, how to apply black eyeliner, and how to choose clothes that flattered her slim, tall figure. They spent weeks, entire months, transforming that frightened, broken girl into a girl who could stop traffic just by walking by. In 2003, in the official yearbook of Clear Lake High School, Christine Paulila was elected Miss Irresistible, the most irresistible girl in the entire school. For the first time in her life, Christine felt beautiful, desired, loved, normal. For the first time in her life, Christine had real friends, friends who had chosen her. But every house of cards always has a price, and the price was the parties, the alcoholic drinks, the light drugs at the beginning, and then the heroin. And it was at one of these parties, full of lights and loud music, that Christine met the man who destroyed everything, absolutely everything. Christopher Lee Snyder, tall, tattooed from head to toe, with eyes that looked like bottomless black holes. I told her she was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in my life. He said he would protect her from everything and every one. In the first week, he had already convinced her to try heroin. By the second week, he would hit her hard if she was 5 minutes late. Christine, who had never had anyone who truly wanted her, clung to him as if he were the only lifebuoy in an ocean of utter drowning. She did everything he told her to do, everything, without arguing, without questioning. And Snyder needed money, lots of money, every day, absurd amounts, for drugs, and he knew exactly where to look without much risk. July 18th, 2003. The plan was simple in his mind: break into Tiffany's house, scare her a little, steal the drugs and money Marcus kept under the mattress, and get out quickly. But Snyder was in the midst of brutal withdrawal, the worst kind. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the pistol. His whole body was covered in cold sweat. When Marcus said, "Calm down, I'll fix it right away, relax," Snyder totally lost his temper, and Christine didn't try to stop him. Not once. When Rachel crawled across the bloodied floor begging for help, pleading for mercy, Christine chose to pick up the gun and hit him. She chose to crush the skull of the only person who had saved her from bullying, from absolute loneliness, from the pain that gnawed at her day after day. The bodies were discovered the next day by a friend who went to pick up a borrowed CD. The image that the police found is one of those that stays forever. Forever in the mind of whoever saw it. 4 young people lay sprawled across the room, like dolls torn in half. The floor was covered in blood. More than 40 gold cartridges were scattered around. Rachel's face was completely mangled from blows with a gun butt. Tiffany still had her cell phone in her hand, as if she had tried to call someone in her last seconds of life. The police had no leads for 3 whole years. 3 years. They knew it had been a couple. Several neighbors saw a young man and woman calmly leaving the house, as if they had just gone to get coffee. But there was no useful DNA, no fingerprints, and the street cameras hadn't recorded anything useful. The case was closed as a cold case. The victims' families lived in hell every day until July 2006. At that time, Christine was married. She met Justin Rott at a rehabilitation clinic. They got married within weeks, full of hope, full of dreams of a new life. But the marriage was a giant lie, a facade. Christine continued injecting heroin every day, sometimes several times a day. He continued, having horrific nightmares of Rachel crawling around, asking why in a bloody voice. One night, completely drugged, she told her husband everything. He recounted how he had crushed his best friend's skull with the butt of his pistol until nothing was left of her face. Justin waited until she was fast asleep and anonymously called the Houston Crime Stoppers hotline. Within a few days, the case reopened like a dormant volcano. The police went after Christopher Snyder first. When he learned they were looking for him, he locked himself in a motel room in Houston and swallowed an entire bottle of pills. He died alone, without leaving a letter, without leaving an explanation, without leaving anything. Christine was found days later in a cheap hotel in San Antonio, thin as a skeleton, covered in abscesses on her arms, crying hysterically and uncontrollably. She was handcuffed in the hotel room and confessed everything, absolutely everything, in less than an hour. The trial, in October 2008, was an absolute media circus that lasted for weeks. The defense tried to portray Christine as a pure victim. She was a minor. She was coerced. She suffered abuse her whole life. She was only 17 years old when she committed the crime. She was manipulated extensively by her violent and drug-addicted boyfriend. They showed her photographs of herself bald, crying at school, and being the victim of cruel bullying. But then came the cold, harsh, and unforgiving testimonies from the forensic police. Christine not only shot Rachel but also beat her to death while she begged for mercy, while she still tried with her last strength to call 911. The jury took less than 4 hours to deliberate. Guilty, capital murder, multiple aggravated homicide. Since he was only 17 years old at the time of the crime, he escaped the death penalty due to a change in American law in 2005. She was sentenced to life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole only on July 22, 2046, when Christine will be 60 years old. Today, November 18, 2025, Christine Marie Paolilla is 39 years old. She is serving her sentence at the Christina Melton Crane Unit in Gatesville, Texas, one of the toughest women's prisons in the entire state. They say she doesn't wear a wig anymore. Her hair has grown back thin, gray, short, and lifeless. He ironically spends his days in the prison library reading detective novels. He never wrote a single letter of apology to the victims' families. He never cried in public for the 4 lives he destroyed with his own hands. Zero remorse recorded in 19 years in prison. Tiffany Rowell and Rachel Coloroutis' mothers still go to the cemetery every year on July 18th. They place white flowers, always white, on the graves. They speak to their daughters as if they could still hear every word. And every year they ask the exact same question, without ever getting an answer, without ever finding peace. They saved your life. They treated you like a sister. How could you come back and take theirs? Sometimes the monster isn't born a monster. Sometimes the monster is saved from bullying, is loved, is transformed into a fairy tale princess. And yet, when the moment of truth arrives, he chooses the abyss, choose the blood. He chooses to betray the only people who ever truly reached out to him. And the abyss, as always, returns the gaze.